Welcome back to the Tracy Take. Today, Ryan and I will be debating on if a quarterback will be taken in the first round. I personally think that there's a strong possibility that we will not see a quarterback taken, while Ryan disagrees with me. But before we get into that, Ryan and I, we have a special announcement. We will be going live on our YouTube channel, The Tracy Take, on Thursday, April 28th for the first round of the NFL Draft. So please join us there so you can kind of hear our little live commentary on I think the YouTube 5-minute delay. So you will already know, but then you get to see what we will have to say about it in our reaction. Also, this is your first time here on this channel. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and share this video with your friends and fans. And Ryan, let's get into it. So I'm excited for this one. This is something I've been thinking about a lot because I know there's been a lot of talk about Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral or Matt Carroll. Is it like Matt Corral, like Golden Corral?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
if he had blonde hair like Trevor Lawrence, but his name was Matt Corral, that would be an instant Matt Golden Corral. So I guess we could still call him that. So, but anyways, another one as well, another QB, Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder. They're not getting as much talk, but they're potential late first round sleepers, I think, that people have talked about. So I know in some Falcons drafts, people are taking Desmond Ridder in the second round. So in my opinion, though, I think that it is going to be too much of a risk, and there's going to be better players that can have a bigger impact during that time. But kind of want to start it off with you. Just a quick little piece. Why do you think a quarterback will be taken in this?
One, I think statistically teams are much willing to take a larger risk on a quarterback versus other players. And I think quarterbacks are graded a lot more on their potential upside than their actual ability. Mm-hmm. For example, I'm going to use Lamar Jackson as this. The Ravens took him with the 32nd overall pick. They traded back up into the first round and took him because his ability to run the football gave him so much potential at the next level to create the offense that the Ravens have created. Mm-hmm. And even though his throwing ability wasn't the greatest, they figured that his running ability would buy him enough time to learn and progress as he got more experience in the NFL. And that has somewhat happened. He hasn't quite become the thrower that they've wanted, but he still has been an MVP quarterback and had success at the next level. And I think teams will look at a guy like Malik Willis, Matt Corral, and Sam Howell in very similar lights. I think Malik Willis has the highest ceiling of any of those guys, but I think he also has the lowest floor. But a team like the Steelers, who has a weak offensive line, would be, I think, excited about the possibility of taking a guy like that at 20 and letting him kind of play and develop while the team is somewhat rebuilding after Ben Roethlisberger's retirement. Yeah. So that, to me, I think is the argument, is I think at least one team is going to see the upside in these guys and will take a chance on them.
Yeah. Okay. No, and that's a great point too, and I think that's a solid point as well. If we're talking about with other positions, teams pass on, for example, like we don't know if we want to take a cornerback here at this point because in the drop off after 3 or 4, the top corner's been taken off. The drop off from the 4th cornerback to the 7th cornerback that's going to be available in the second round is not as much as if it's like the 4th quarterback to the 7th quarterback that's going to be available in the round, and so that's a really good point, especially with the upside. And so, and that's for me. And you mentioned the Steelers, and that to me is honestly the first team that makes me nervous on if they will take a quarterback. I think that they could, but I also think that there's other needs and players that are going to be available. Other players that are going to be available can impact that team from day one. There's going to be a lot of offensive linemen, and they need offensive line help to help with Najee Harris, who was their first-round pick last year. But for me, all the teams that are before them, though, I don't think they're going to take a quarterback. And I have 6 teams that would take a quarterback. Panthers, Falcons, Seahawks, Commanders, Texans, and Saints are the picks before them. And I don't think they're going to – any of those teams are going to pick for multiple reasons. One, it's going to be a team like the Panthers or the Falcons, who there's so much stuff that's going on where the players that are going to be available could provide a much bigger impact from day one and potentially be with the franchise for a longer time. And actually, even that's more than the Falcons. With the Panthers, they really need offensive line help. And so you're going to have Ike Ekwonu that's potentially available. Evan Neal might fall that far. Charles Cross is going to be there. And the drop-off from those guys to then where they would pick then in the second round is going to be a bigger difference than if it was a Trevor Penning, Zion Johnson. That's not as big of a drop-off. With the Falcons, they have so much other help and pieces that they need. Similar with the Seahawks as well. They do have Drew Lock as a stopgap that's there. Potentially they can trade for Jimmy G or Baker Mayfield for, I think, a really small asking price. I think there's going to be other pieces that are going to be there for them to draft. Same thing also then, and now with the Commanders, it's a little bit different. Like I said, theirs potentially. They really honestly just need some of receiver and other receiver weapons. And where they're at is where the receivers, Garrett Wilson's, Drake London, and then who's the other guy? There's another. School? I think Ohio State.
Chris Olave.
Yeah. He will also be there. I thought there was one more. In that top,
Jameson Williams from Alabama.
That's what I'm thinking of. He'll fall a little bit just because of his ACL. Texans, similar to the Falcons, have so much stuff that needs to go on, and the Saints, also similar to the Commanders, need receivers. So the Steelers are the first one that potentially could take it, but I think they might go a different route.
Yeah, I think the Commanders, they gave up a second-round pick for Carson Wentz. I think that they are going to try to do a better job of surrounding him with protection and weapons. And also, too, I think that the Texans, people don't realize this, but Davis Mills was the second best rookie quarterback last year.
I know.
And that was on the Houston Texans, who sucked. So he had very little time. He was throwing to Brandon Cooks and then Nico Collins and Cast. And Nico Collins had 400 receiving yards last year and was their number 2 wide receiver.
Yeah.
So, that to me, I think, says a lot about Davis Mills' potential.
And that's why I just included them in there just because if they have the 2 first-round picks.
Yeah.
Obviously, they just picked Davis Mills. Yeah, he was their first pick overall last year, but it was in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
And so if there was a team potentially, I guess, have a quarterback competition, try and get the first quarterback off the board. That's why I threw Houston in there. But I agree with you. I think Davis Mills, for the time being, is fine, and there are plenty of other pieces that they can go and add that can help contribute to maybe potentially fixing their quarterback situation in-house.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think if the Davis Mills thing doesn't work out for Houston, then they have a better scenario for another quarterback to come into.
Yeah.
And I don't think Philadelphia is really in the quarterback market. Philadelphia came out and said a little while ago when they had 3 picks in the first round that they wanted to spend one of those 3 picks on a quarterback. But I think after evaluating this QB class, I don't think that they were quite as enthralled with some of the other prospects as they were hoping they would be. And I think that is part of the reason why the deal went down with the New Orleans Saints. I think that they can build that defense up with those 2 picks and then possibly invest in a quarterback next year when the class is supposed to be a little bit better. But then I think it comes down to Pittsburgh. But then after that, you go on a run of teams. I know Tennessee is calling for Ryan Tannehill's head right now, but I think that's a little ridiculous. He had 1 bad playoff game.
Well, and another thing as well, if we're looking at that logically, not just taking the performance performance in the playoffs out of it, though, if you just look at the Titans and their draft capital, they don't have a second-round pick, so they're really going to want to capitalize on this first pick here. And then their next pick's not going to be until the latter half of day 2 when it's in the 3rd round. So I think they're going to be trying to find as much value as possible. I think also right around then there's going to be a lot of offensive linemen that are going to be available that can help come in and contribute, that they can build and grow. So I think they're going to go that route. The only other team then after that potentially could get a quarterback is they don't trade up or trade out. It's going to be the Detroit Lions who are picking 32, which that would be funny if I'm somehow correct, and then I'm panicking over this. Like, you better not take a quarterback there. Jared Goff is the best quarterback in the league. You Lions fans, don't waste a pick on this.
He actually was average last year. He was decent.
Well, he was fine. Well, also considering the situation that he's been put in with the Lions, but they're that's the only team. So really, honestly, for me, just just thinking about it, the only team I think that really could mess with my prediction is the Pittsburgh Steelers, as you laid out as well. If they find a guy like Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett, and they're like, man, the upside on this kid is a lot. It's worth taking a risk on. I'm
not a fan of Kenny Pickett, but
I
think
saying,
Malik Willis has the upside. We can do we can talk about the quarterback.
Another thing also with the Lions potentially taking a quarterback there with that 32nd pick is they're picking 2 picks later.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So they're going to be able to go find the value that they want. And let's just go take a flyer on this quarterback kid.
Yeah.
It's the end of the first round, and we can groom him and grow him to the quarterback we want him to be.
And I think the Lions are much more likely to take a quarterback at 32 than 34, because with that 32nd pick, you get the 5th-year option, whereas 34, you don't get it. So you get an extra year with that quarterback salary cap.
Yeah.
I think it's at 32, it would be around $8.5 million. So that's a pretty good bargain if you can hit on that pick. And so having 3 top 35 picks, I think, gives the Lions even more flexibility. But again, teams probably won't have quarterback rankings the way that people do on the outside of like, okay, well, this is our first guy, second guy, third guy. The Detroit Lions are probably like, well, okay, we like Malik Willis and then we like Desmond Ridder. But we think Malik Willis's upside is a lot higher. And so, like, if he's there at 32, then we might take him. So that is kind of the logic that I think teams play, rather than just like from the fan perspective where they're like, well, like we'll just take the 3rd best quarterback if we need a quarterback. Like,
and that's absolutely fair, and so that's why. But with all the teams before them, especially before the Steelers, teams who really need. Who need a quarterback and are going to be going down that process here within the next couple of years. There are so many other needs that they can address, like right there, day one. Yeah. This guy's coming in being a starter, with a quarterback, and so that's where I think, kind of up until the Steelers, and maybe the Saints maybe want to take a flyer, but I think they have so many other needs. Yeah. Where I think the Steelers are the ones that legitimately could take it, but I don't think they will. I think they'll go down. They'll go down the offensive line route. It's also that you're also getting into some of the receivers as well. They're in that spot. Juju Smith-Schuster now is not on the team anymore. So maybe if they like Treylon Burks, if they want to get Chris Olave to put him on there. Get some other weapons for Mitch Trubisky. So that's where I think there's so many other routes, unlike with last year where it is – I mean, you have these clear-cut talent, but then also like with the Patriots, for example, like they were gonna take a quarterback, especially with Mac Jones falling to them, because that team was pretty good and had a lot of pieces. They just needed a quarterback. Cam Newton was clearly not the guy.
Yeah. But I think New England kind of found a situation where the right quarterback fell to them. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's going to be a lot of if the right quarterback falls to you. Like I think if Pittsburgh takes Malik Willis, Detroit might be out on a quarterback if Malik Willis is the only guy that they really liked in the first round. Yeah. So it's just interesting, and who knows? I mean, maybe none of these teams like any of these guys in the first round. But I just think that is very unlikely that. I think it's 26 teams have a first round pick this year, and like I find it very unlikely that all of them. Granted, I think only 4 are quarterback needy, but like I find it unlikely that all of them are going to pass on one of these guys.
Well, and that's where I think it's not just about the guys itself. It's also then the other players and the other needs specific to that team. For example, like if the Panthers were picking 16th. I think that they would pick a quarterback, but no, they're picking 6. Evan Neal, Akeem Ekwonu might be there. So they'll also, if they want to address the corner position, which I know they did last year with J.C. Horn, but he's coming off a season-ending injury. There's other positions and other potential needs that are there.
That would be a horrible pick if they pick a corner.
Oh, it would be. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm just throwing out.
No.
Some of the other top players. But that being said, though, if Evan Neal and Akeem Ekwonu are there, I think that it would be also a horrible pick to pick Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So
yeah, and I think that's the same situation with the Falcons. I think the Falcons would get better value by trading out of 8 before they took
I agree.
Malik Willis.
I agree.
Or
If they,
any of those guys. So
I know we talked about this. We did a video. We just did a video. Go check it out on which teams might trade up or trade out, trade up or trade down. And if the Falcons traded down, let's say with the Eagles, let's say the Eagles really wanted to get a wide receiver,
Trayvon Walker or Wilson, yeah,
something like that, and they want to risk it. And then the Falcons go back down to 15th or 16th, I think, wherever the Eagles are picking. And then let's take a flyer on Malik Willis, and then you have these other additional draft picks where you can go with.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I could see that. I could see that. But where they're at now with 8, I think, you'll have first access at Trayvon Walker, Jermaine Johnson. There still will be some corners that are going to be available. Kyle Hamilton might potentially fall down that far. Who knows? Maybe even Evan Neal or Akeem Ekwonu might fall that far. Probably not.
Yeah.
But still,
it's a possibility. Some people have Evan Neal going outside the top 10, which I find crazy. But
if Evan Neal's there at 8 and we don't take him, I'd be like, what are we doing? Our offensive line has been horrendous since the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
So
play him at right tackle. Who cares? just put it So, but all in all, I think it's going to be a really interesting draft. I still stand by the point. I think at some point somebody is going to take a quarterback.
Yeah.
I know you disagree with that, but I'm not going to give you a chance to elaborate because I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Tracy Take. So if you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Tyler and I are trying to hit 400 subscribers by the draft. If you could help us reach that goal, that'd be great, but I don't think we're going to hit it at this point. But make sure to tune in for our live stream of the draft next Thursday, April 28th at 7 p.m., and we will see you guys next time.